The whole entire generation of recruitment was built around, get your job ad out there, just post it everywhere, right? And go troll job boards and try to find who's actively looking. The problem with those is, one, the data goes out of date immediately. It's siloed in the job. You can't leverage it.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenly, and welcome back to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we've got a phenomenal mic drop ahead of us I'm excited to get into, but before we do, just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics, items that recruiters are talking about or will be very soon and what those mean for them. Every Tuesday, we have a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Every once in a while, we open it up for Q&A. Listeners can drop in questions they'd like to hear us take on, so send those to us at podcast@loxo.co. And every now and then, like today, you're going to hear a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and thinks you should know. So to tee up the episode for today, I'm excited for it because Matt is not going to pull any punches. You have a strong and unique point of view on a piece of software, recruiting software specifically, that's, I'd say it's pretty near and dear to a lot of recruiters' hearts. It's the ATS. So without me giving anything away, tell me a little bit about what that vision looks like to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'm excited for this one as well. Obviously, I'm very opinionated and passionate about this. It's a big reason why we exist, but so the ATS, how many of you in recruitment have heard that question before? What's your favorite ATS? Or, we've heard it for decades, and everyone hates their ATS, right? But in our opinion, a legacy ATS, it won't even exist in 5 years. That's a bold statement, isn't it? And so what's happened is we've been saying this for a while, but you're starting to see the seeds come to fruition, and we'll talk about what we've seen, but what I often talk about when I walk people through this is you go kind of through three different kind of stages, and you go from desktop software, which was circa SaaS platforms, and everyone would download like TurboTax, right? You go buy it at like Best Buy and install it on your computer, and that was software, right? That's how it was built back in the day. And then you go to the cloud, and that's kind of Web 1.0, and every SaaS industry. Early on, you built like workflow. This is the system of record for each and every industry. So like accountants use QuickBooks, right? Sales professionals would use Salesforce or their flavor of CRM. And so what happens is those industries were kind of the original one, and they had clunky UIs and horrible UX and single page apps with fields everywhere. It looked like Microsoft DOS, right? That's Web 1.0. And what happened is in the ATS world, all of a sudden there were these new companies that popped up, phenomenal companies, right? Led by great ones. And you kind of go through Web 2.0. And on the in-house side, there was like Greenhouse. You can even argue like some YC companies like Lever, really good UIs, UX, right? Great platforms. On the agency side, there were some early ones, but because agency is like a boutique-ish industry, much smaller TAM, you have some, companies pop up, and they were just built by like ex-staffing leaders, and it was, a simple ATS. That's Web 2.0. And what we've always wanted to build, and we've talked about early on, was what we call Web 3.0. Of course, you're going to have a more modern UI. Of course, you're going to have a more modern UX. It's going to look great. But you're going to incorporate data and AI. AI is a huge part of it. You cannot have AI without data. And we'll talk a little bit further about this, but this is not just going to happen in the recruiting world. It's already happening or starting to happen in every single SaaS vertical space. And it's going to get rid of the original Web 1.0 and 2.0. They won't even exist. We'll talk more about why and some examples and how that all works. But that's the premise of it's just an evolution of technology in general.
Okay. So technology is evolving, and the traditional ATS, that was designed to really just manage one aspect of the recruiting process, which was like the inbound candidates only. You posted to a website, you posted to a job board, and they come in that way. So are you saying this process is going to go away, or how that's handled and managed by the ATS is going to go away? Tell me a little bit more about that part.
The part with an ATS and why it'll probably happen gradually and then all of a sudden, right? We're going to wake up and say, like, what is an ATS? Just it'll happen pretty quick. And I think we're closer and closer. It's just a database. It doesn't do anything. And it was, you could have had an old database back in the day, desktop one. But really, once job boards popped up, like Monster, Career Builder, even you could argue LinkedIn, it allowed recruiters to have scale and be able to post a job and advertise. And then it's an applicant tracking system. And so that was the whole entire generation of recruitment was built around, get your job ad out there, just post it everywhere, right? And go troll job boards and try to find who's actively looking. But the problem with those is, one, the data goes out of date immediately. It's siloed in the job. You can't leverage it. There's no data mining or talent pipeline building or nurturing candidate relationships over time, being strategic. So the ATS in itself is a stale database. Data goes out of date. And now what's even a bigger issue is where we're at now is, in order to create efficiency or find net new candidates or nurture any of the jobs to be done across your end-to-end workflow, what these legacy ATS players and incumbents are is they create a marketplace around them. And I don't have to share out a ton of names, but the big names, all the ATS players, foster a marketplace, an ecosystem, and you have to go bolt those tools on. The problem is they're not natively built. They were not natively built in a unified workflow. It'll never work. You're jumping. It's very inefficient. You have to spend a lot of money, and they're entirely different systems. To help, I'm a constant voracious learner. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and one of my favorites is any SaaS CEO is SaaStr, and there's a guy, Parker Conrad. I'm sure some people have heard of him. He's a CEO at Rippling. It's funny. We built this model and had the vision in 2012, earlier when we were designing it, but he talked about and coined the term compound startup. And I was listening to it recently. It's a new one, and people are just starting to kind of catch on to this in different markets. But what happens is you consolidate systems for your customers and you solve problems across lots of different point solutions. And so this is, again, other savvy, intelligent groups are realizing this is the new way. Why would you ever, your customers get used to your UI and UX and unified platform, and instead, again, and going to pay for 20 different systems that no one can learn and use, and it's disjointed and it doesn't make sense. It's like, I want to come to a recruiting software company that solves my problems in a very simple, most automated fashion in a UI and UX that I'm used to. And again, the reason why it doesn't exist is it takes a decade to build each one of these point solutions and hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So you can't do it overnight. And these legacy systems, just like, well, I'm not going to go too far into there, but like Clay Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma is large, giant incumbent organizations, they cannot innovate. They're going to get disrupted. And this is exactly what's happening.
So this is interesting. So the ATS, the way that I'm interpreting this is the ATS is going from almost like a product to a feature within something else, because as you mentioned, a recruiter, they want to solve for a job to be done. And historically, they're solving for individual pains within that process. So it used to be you would have a tool for each, my ATS, my CRM, my sourcing, my outreach. The holistic job to be done is like that browser window, and we're consolidating that. So the ATS is going to be one facet of what used to be 10 tabs into one tab, so to speak.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, everyone has an opinion, right? And everyone can build their own vision and build software. I almost think it's a byproduct of, I mean, again, SaaS was like you're building software for verticals and industries, and it's like, how I approached this was looking at like, how have things always been done, and just kind of breaking it down from A to Z. Like, what is step A to Z, the entire end-to-end workflow, and just saying like, why is it done this way? And that's crazy. And like, how could you possibly do this better? And just how could you eliminate and automate as many of the inefficiencies and steps, right? So you weren't thinking best in breed. You weren't thinking how long it would take. We just wanted to build a solution that we thought if it was our recruiting organization and we want to be world class and eliminate everything, make it as seamless and automated and elegant and beautiful as possible, what would that look like, right? And then you build those out. And now, lo and behold, we started to build some categories. Other industries kind of validate similar things. So sales automation, marketing automation, they've already proven some concepts that we take inspiration from. And so it's not like some of these are entirely new ideas and innovations just to recruitment, but now the industry is starting to learn more. You have more sophisticated people coming in that get it from other industries. And thank God there actually are best in breed companies that help educate the market on the value of how important these things are. And they'll go, here's our best in breed solution sourcing tool or email drip tool. The market's like, oh my God, this is amazing. We love it. It helps us, reduce our time by, 500%. But now we need to integrate it with our legacy ATS. And that's been a nightmare. Oh my God. And then we have to integrate this other tool and import and export CSVs and hire 5 other employees to manage it. That's what's happening, right? And yes, the ideas and concepts, everyone's getting it. But now they're like, wait a second, we're going to consolidate. We're going to get rid of all this garbage. Or they go to their existing vendors, like their point solutions, and say, hey, can you go build an ATS CRM? And they're like, oh, of course we can. Do you have 10 years and, Series C and $250 million? Maybe not, right? It's not easy, and it's the challenge, but we're confident this is where it's going. It's happening, and we've seen it happen over the last 10 years, and now it's really, really accelerating.
Yeah. So the market's evolved. The platforms are now trying to keep up, and that's where you're seeing this breakdown of the ATS is it's not keeping up with what's needed in the current state of recruitment. So you've laid out, 5 years it might be gone. It's really easy to say it's going to go away. Well, what's the future look like then? What does that replace? What does that mean for the process, the workflow? I guess I'll open up for you for what's that secondary part of that look like?
How can I sit here and say that I know an entire industry is going to completely transform and change? It's going to, and it's already happened. I can tell you 5 years ago, some of the biggest global executive recruiting firms, right? They would build their own platform. And they spent a lot of money on it. And a lot of those that have tried or they've stayed on old systems. I mean, you have Billstone File Finder, you have Deskflow, you have Clue and Encore, you have all these systems. And we're not talking on the enterprise side, even on the HRS side, like Workday, SuccessFactors, Oracle. Oracle used to have 87% of the market share. Now it's hyper fragmented. What's happening though is irregardless, all of these, the largest recruitment organizations on the planet, they're the most conservative and slowest moving. It's hard to do the change management. They're at a point where they're realizing they will not continue to stay in business if they don't evolve. And just within the last 6 to 12 months, companies that we've met with for many years are now circling back and they're moving now and they're transitioning. They're saying, if we don't do this now, we're going to die. And the reason why is all of their legacy vendors are literally retiring or they're going out of business because so many customers have churned. They're not investing in it. They finally realize they keep saying things are coming. Or some of our competitors that are traditional ATSs are trying to keep up. And before they laughed at us, they're like, what is Loxo trying to do by offering all these different things in one? Their customers have validated that's what they want. They've tried to add it and build it, and it's not obviously working. So, customers are no longer patient to stay with their traditional ATS. They realize they've just fallen way too far behind. So the acceleration of and transition from the old world to the new way, and the workflows are relatively the same. It's not reinventing the recruitment wheel, but there's a much more efficient and simple way to do things and automate the steps. So, there definitely is going to be a new way of doing things. And I think that'll evolve as well, just with the tech, just like you see with GPT and generative AI. In my opinion, the future of recruitment, especially on the agency side and search firms, you'll look much more like a tech company. And it'll even create really exciting new opportunities where it'll move people further up the value chain. You'll be more of a talent advisor. You'll have a seat at the table with your clients, be more an advisor. You got to do more fun stuff working with not just the candidates, but advising for the clients and TA teams, but also for the day-to-day ICs, they'll be able to, even like having roles where you help build out campaigns and templates for your whole organization to get better, open and reply rates. And how do you use AI systems to create scale for every other one of your team members, right? Just lots of really exciting roles that don't even necessarily exist are going to evolve.
Yeah, it's going beyond the admin just checking boxes to being intelligent about it. How do we do better with the things that we're doing? How do we get smarter? How do we do it more effectively? So that's exciting. I hopefully, fingers crossed. I think that's definitely gonna come through. So any other last parting thoughts that you wanna drop into this?
Nope. I'm just excited for this one to age, and 5 years from now. But we've been at it for a while. We see it, but I can't wait 5 years from now if our hypothesis comes true, and we're definitely going for it. We see it. So yeah, I don't think it'll exist. Maybe for the vast majority of it, it'll be, I think 5 years, but some of the bigger ones, they'll evolve and figure it out. But let's say 2030, the ATS will not exist.
I'm setting a reminder in my phone. Text Matt, see how that goes. Send this Spotify, Apple Podcast episode and see how that lands. So perfect. Well, this was fun. I know you've been talking about this topic a lot, so I thought it'd be good to get this conversation out and hear what people think of it, how they approach it, and also just get them thinking about how they are or aren't evolving with everything. So appreciate you joining the show as always. I love it when you share these types of thoughts and really get people thinking a little bit outside of their day-to-day into the bigger picture. So as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. You can find all the show notes in the description of your favorite podcast streaming platform, as well as on our website, loxo.co/podcast. We do have full video episodes available on YouTube as well, if you do want to stream those that way. Questions for us, send those to us, podcast@loxo.co. If I say Loxo one more time, I might just have to go get a scratch off because we've said it way too many at this point. So, all right, everyone, that is the show. This was a great mic drop with Matt. Until next time.